The hardest thing about being successful as a PI or for just about any business is being effective in sales. Let's face the facts. It doesn't matter how good you are at surveillance. It doesn't matter how good your interviewing skills are, and it doesn't matter how much you know about the laws, the rules, and the regulations out there. If you can't close the sale, you might as well close your business right now. So let's jump into my top sales techniques that can help you succeed as a PI today. The first thing you need to do when you are talking to a prospective customer is to understand what your customer needs. But it isn't all that simple, because your customer may not necessarily know what they need, or they may think they need one thing when they actually need something else. When talking to the customer, I first ask them to tell me what is going on. Then I shut up and I listen and I take notes. Once they get done talking, I usually have a good idea of the basics of what is happening, but I don't always have all the details, as most customers will just briefly skim through the situation. Now I ask them some clarifying questions based on what they told me, so I better understand what may be involved in the investigation. You need to know things like where the investigation needs to occur, whether it is a surveillance case or an accident investigation. You need to know where before you can formulate what you need to do. This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. For instance, if it is an accident investigation, you may need to do a scene investigation. So where did the actual accident occur? Where are the vehicles that were involved? Where are they now? Where are the witnesses located? If it is a child custody case and you need to do surveillance, where will the surveillance start? Where might they go? Where will it end? And in all cases, what does the client expect out of the investigation? This is crucial to know from the get-go. If the client is expecting you to get video of her spouse drinking with the kids, well, that may take several rounds of surveillance. Or if the client is expecting you to do a full scene investigation with measurements, tons of photo, interviews with dozens of witnesses, and a neighborhood canvas to look for more witnesses and potential video cameras in the area, well, that could take considerable time and may need multiple investigators to be involved. You need to have as much information as possible before you can give the client a quote. But wait, that's not the big secret to closing the sale. Having all of this preliminary information, you can now decide if this is even a case you want to take. Now, let's dig deeper into the real sales secrets. You need to also have a sales pitch to give the client, and how successful the sales pitch works depends on several factors. I usually will inquire of the client what they have in mind for a budget for the investigation, but I don't just ask, what do you have in mind for a budget, Mr. Customer? If you just ask that, you will usually get an answer like, well, I have never done this before and I have no idea. That's why I'm calling you. And that is a fair comment, as most customers really have no idea what to expect. So what I try to say is something like this. Mr. Customer, I know this is a difficult situation for you, and I want to provide a valuable investigation for you that has the best opportunity to meet your goals. As we move forward, what do you think is a good budget, or let's say a good not to exceed dollar limit for the investigation? Knowing this will help me build a plan that fits your needs. This keeps the ball in the client's court. A huge part of making a great negotiation work to your benefit is to try to have the other person throw out the first number. By getting an idea of what they want to budget allows you to know, first off, how serious they are about hiring you, and secondly, if they have the means to hire you. Here is where the hard part comes in. You need to have a good idea of what the fees will be for most cases that you're going to take on. I know you can't know every single scenario that may come your way, but you should be able to formulate a good idea of what the average case will cost. If you charge $100 an hour, an average day of surveillance may include 8 hours of surveillance, an hour of travel time, and an hour of report and video time, so it could be around $1,000 a day. If the client says, I don't want to go over $3,000, then you could easily quote a 3-day assignment and stay within that budget. What I would do, though, is maybe tell them we would normally recommend 5 days of surveillance and the cost would be $5,000. However, I understand you need to stay within your budget, so I'm willing to give you the per day cost for a 5-day surveillance the same as a 3-day one, which would run $3,000. This allows you to start high and come down, and if they ask you if you can do any better, you can then recommend maybe starting with 2 days at $2,000. This allows you to maintain the integrity of your rates and still work with them on the price. The same goes for any type of investigation you do. If it's an accident investigation, then you need to know what that might look like depending on the average distance to the scene. If it's an hour away and you usually need 3 hours on scene and both vehicles are at a specific tow yard that will take you another 3 hours to drive there and take those photos of the cars, that's 6 to 7 hours plus some drive time. Throw in your report time, it may be around 10 to 12 hours for the day. So you can quote that at $1,000 to $1,200 to get started. Now I say to get started, because you never know where the investigation will lead you. If you need to then go out and do interviews, neighborhood canvassing, and more, it may be a 2-day assignment. The bottom line is to have a good idea in your mind of what you will charge for the average investigation for cases near you and those further away. But the big secret is not to just have all of this information from the client and you know what your average charges are. That isn't going to get the sale closed. The first big secret to closing the sale is, of course, as I always say, answer the phone. If you just let clients leave messages and expect to gain enough info to formulate a quote, then call them back, well, they have probably done got several other quotes, heard several other sales pitches, and are done playing that game. The key to closing the sale is you have to be the first one to close the sale. You see, if they called 3 other PIs and then called you, well, those other 3 PIs did not close the sale. The big key to closing the sale is in your sales pitch in its totality. You have to be able to do all these things: identify the client's problem, formulate an investigative plan, find out what their budget is, and sell it to them in fairly quick order. The key to selling it is knowing exactly what you're going to say every single time your phone rings. And the only way you're going to know exactly what you're going to say every single time the phone rings is to do this one thing. That one thing, that one big secret, is to practice. That is right. Practice, practice, and practice some more. Sit down and write down 10 or so possible scenarios that customers may call you about. Then take those scenarios and practice talking through it for each one. Maybe even record yourself so you know how it sounds, and then you can see where you might stumble. This way you will be prepared for almost every single scenario out there. The final big thing, though, to closing the sale is to close it. Make sure after you give a quote, you do not just sit there and wait for a response. Waiting for the client to respond to the quote is giving them the ability to take their ball and leave the court and continue calling other PIs. You need to close it with something like this. Mr. Customer, we would normally recommend 5 days of surveillance and the cost would be $5,000. However, I understand you need to stay within your budget, so I am willing to give you the daily fee for a 5-day surveillance for only 3 days, which would run $3,000. All we need to do to get started is put together a quick contract and get the retainer in place. Once we have both of these, we can get this on the schedule for you. What is a good email address we can send the contract to? Once you get the email, ask for all the other pertinent information you need for the contract: names, addresses, and all the other details. If they balk or have more questions, don't worry, just answer the questions. Then lead back to your closing statement. What is a good email we can send the contract to? Another great tool to use when quoting jobs out to potential clients is a retainer calculator. Now, I made this one here that I use for all of my calls. It is made in Excel. I leave it on my desktop on my computer, and I usually have it open and minimized most days, so when clients call, I can simply put in some basic information and get a quote for them as they're talking. It also calculates for multiple days, multiple investigators, mileage, travel time, just about everything. If you want more information about it, go to my website, freeprivateinvestigatortraining.com. Go to the PI Gear page in the menu, and you can get more information about it there. And I will put up a link for a video that tells you all about that right up here.